Secretary McCann, welcome. I thank you again for your leadership at the State Department. Let me first follow up on a point that Senator Risch brought up in regards to Afghanistan and the procedures being used to help those that are vulnerable out of Afghanistan, whether they are U.S. citizens, whether they're eligible for our special visas, or whether they're those that are at risk because of the Taliban government. I sent a letter to the State Department about a week ago and asked for a response before this hearing, and I've not gotten one, in regards to the apparent lack of transparency and openness in individual cases that we have. Before during the withdrawal, the evacuation, we had a pretty open process with the State Department on individual cases. That seemed to have changed once our presence was no longer in Afghanistan. I just really wanted to point out I was disappointed I didn't get a response, but I do look forward to getting that response and following up with you as to how you're going to be working with our individual offices on the still significant amount of inquiries we get in regards to vulnerable people that are still remaining in Afghanistan.
So, Senator, I'm told by our head of legislative affairs sitting behind me that the letter should have been delivered this morning. I looked at a draft last night, so if you don't have it, we'll make sure that you get it after this hearing.
I thank you for that. First, I really am very supportive of the announcements being made today, the 5 areas that you mentioned for significant reform within the State Department. I agree with Chairman Menendez's initial statements of how over a long period of time we've seen a decline of the support for our Foreign Service officers and our diplomacy mission. And so I do think it needs to be reinvigorated, and I think the outline that you announced today is the right way forward for us to have those discussions. I do encourage us to have a robust interaction as these plans are being implemented, because we're certainly going to have some comments. We may not be in total agreement with every move, but we certainly want to work together to achieve the objectives that you've set out. So let me mention an area that gives me great concern, and that is we've seen in regards to the training of our diplomatic service, foreign service people, that we've cut back pretty dramatically in their ability to get the type of training necessary to carry out those missions. We've also seen a decline within the mission's capacity to deal with the core values that make America the strong nation it is, in promoting democratic institutions and advancing human rights and dealing with anti-corruption measures in country. We just don't have the capacity within our missions to carry this out, and we don't have the trained Foreign Service officers in order to advance these core mission objectives. So we in Congress are looking at following President Biden's leadership to advance these values, but we need to have in country the capacity to deliver on that. So will you just share with us the priorities of making sure that we have the training resources available for our Foreign Service officers, as well as the capacity in mission to deal with advancing these values?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Cardin. On the first issue, and it's mentioned in my longer statement. For the record, I don't think I hit it on the oral statement. We're trying to build in what Secretary Powell first had a vision for, which is a training float. That is a sufficient number of people in the workforce so that people can go off and get training, and we don't lose our capability at missions and in Washington. We have a training float now to some degree because people go take language training for 6 to 12 months, but we need to build in a bigger cadre of people so that we can have that training and professional development float so people can go on interagency rotations or even go outside the government for a rotation. So in the 22 budget, we've asked for 500 new positions. We've been ambitious in our submission to OMB for the 23 budget to try to continue to build on that, but obviously that's a decision that would still need to be made. Then with regard to democracy and human rights and the core values the President has embraced as central to his foreign policy, there's broad guidance to our missions and our workforce about how to speak to these issues and amplify them. We're holding, the President's hosting a summit for democracy later this year, which will be the first of a couple. In terms of the training for these officers to carry these messages, I'll have to get back to you on exactly what we do at the Foreign Service Institute. I know there are some courses on human rights, but I'm not familiar with all the details.
I would just underscore the summit. We all support the summit being held and the President's leadership on that. There'll be countries participating in this summit that have challenges in regards to current trends on democracy. I hope that we're very direct in our messaging about the importance of not backsliding on democratic principles. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, I would just want to support your comments in regards to diversity, and I would hope that the State Department would work with us, keep us informed as to the strategies they're using in order to make sure that our State Department workforce represents our country in the diversity of our country.
Thank you. I understand Senator Young is with us virtually.